right, I'm getting pretty sick of this. But as you can see, the car stayed here overnight. The owner of that car with the parasitic drain issue was very insistent that there is absolutely really something wrong where it does sometimes die overnight and it's not something being left on or whatever. And he asked if I would keep it another day and see what I can find. So I went ahead, kept it another day. As you can see, the battery is completely dead. So now I got to go out there in that freezing Arctic weather and jumpstart this car, and we'll bring it in here and we'll see what we find. Also, the other car, the Toyota with the tensioner pulley noise, that car, as soon as I finished the video yesterday, O'Reilly's called me, said they had the part in. I was already editing the video, so I went up, got the thing, installed it, let the customer know that the car would be done in a couple hours, and then he came by a little bit early. To be honest, I totally forgot to get the final shot of that, but the pulley is totally quiet now. The car sounds great. And as usual, now that the guy sees that this is not that big of a deal and the car's running good, he wants me to do a bunch of other stuff to the car. So we will see it back, and at some point in the future, I'll show you. I'm gonna go ahead and get that car in here, and we will see what we can find, but clearly there is something wrong there. And yeah, of course, it's absolutely completely freezing cold, and you would expect any car is going to have a problem starting in that. But with the new battery and from what we saw yesterday, there's no reason that the car would be completely dead like that. So let's bring the car in, let's give this another try. And I almost forgot, we've got one more car to do today as well, and that will be a car that very unfortunately at this time, the heater isn't working. So this will be a little bit of a surprise. This is gonna be someone you know. But I don't see how that's going to work out, because if they don't have heat, they're going to die on the way up here. And also the fact that they wouldn't be able to have the windshield defroster working or anything. So we'll have to see how that works out. God, it is so cold. The snow, it's almost like sand. It's about -20. Now that I've got the garage door open again, it is freezing. My hands about have frostbite from just probably 1 minute to hook up the charger and start the car. I can't even move my fingers. All right, we're gonna go ahead and let the garage warm up for a little bit. Hey, Myron.
Hey, man, how you doing?
Oh, freezing my balls off. Well, it's totally up to you. I don't want you to die on your way up here. Okay, sounds good. You want to wait? Okay, sounds good, sounds good. I'll try to pull sometime maybe during this week. Good, I am pleasantly surprised to see I kept recording during that unintentionally, but I just got a call, as you see, from my friend Myron. That's Myron Pollock, the drummer for the very popular 70s band that made Green-Eyed Lady. The band is called Sugarloaf, and we have featured Myron's car on here several times before. And as you heard, because of this extreme cold weather, and he lives a little bit far away now since we used to be neighbors in another neighborhood, it is just not possible for him to drive the car up here without heat. It's not going to happen. So we're going to delay that for another day, and maybe we'll go ahead and show that just because he's a rock star. All right, that means we get more time. I get basically all day today to figure this thing out. All right, let's get a reading here. Holy cow, the thing takes like 10 seconds to turn on. Okay, showing 11.9 volts right now, but you'll notice now when I crank the engine, let's just show you as a comparison versus yesterday, this is gonna drop way below 10.8. Yeah, 4 volts isn't gonna start a car, so something happened to this battery last night, and we need to figure this out. So let's get this charger on here, and we will come back after this charges up and we can try to find what's going on. All right, this calls for drastic measures, so I'm going to bring out my new diagnostics cart that I put together here. Even attached a computer stand with a swivel here. How about that? Now, if I can't figure out the problem with this setup, then that's embarrassing. All right, battery's charged up. It looks really already. That seems kind of quick for being on a trickle charge, but So part of me is wondering if this may be a bad battery, and that is one of the things I'm going to test. And also I realize now that I made a mistake in my assumption that this car was just plain going to start. And that is the first thing I should have done was got a voltage measurement on this battery before I even tried to start the car. And it would have let me see the status of the voltage and know if there was currently a drain happening. But unfortunately, when I went to start the car and it was dead, and then I put the charger on it, and then you got the alternator running as I drive it in, we've kind of lost that data. So in retrospect, that was kind of a mistake. All right, so we'll need to see if we can duplicate that issue again. And I got a feeling we're going to be needing that charger again, probably. Okay, so we are going to do, I think, a battery test right now. I don't know. I mean, it's, you know, they replaced the battery because of this exact issue, put in a new battery, still have the issue. So I'm not so inclined to believe that that's going to be it, but we just need to start ruling some stuff out. So let's get a battery test set up. All right, another variable that I was thinking of too is, of course, last night when I set the car outside, it's about 9 o'clock and the car is fully charged. It has no problem starting when I pulled it out into the driveway to leave it sit. And then, of course, what do I do before I leave? I lock the car door using the remote, something we did not do in the garage yesterday. So there may be a variable there with locking the car. And that's something that I want to try to do here and see if we can reproduce that. Okay, I've got that backwards. Positron flow this way. Need to make absolutely certain these jaws are closed all the way. And let me go ahead and get this set up. Okay, we are going to go to Pico Diagnostics and do a battery test here. Okay, and I just realized one of the things I need is a 600 amp clamp for my current probe here, not the 30 amp. I'm sure it won't be calibrated correctly otherwise, so let me go set that up real quick. All right, the 30 amp will be great for the parasitic draw. This clamp here will be good for the battery testing. All right, let me hook this in. Okay, temperature in here right now is about 8 degrees Celsius. Cold cranking amps, let's see, what does this battery say? 700 at 0 degrees. Well, we certainly don't have that right now. Let's go ahead and fill in 700. Okay, that should do it. So let's go ahead and start. Please start engine. Engine starts right up, capturing data. It's looking for the alternator signal to confirm that this is working. And we have a good battery, as expected. On our data, so we can see initial voltage was 12.5, 100% state of charge. Lowest voltage was 8.35, which is definitely a lot lower than we caught yesterday. And I don't really like that very much, to be honest. But we saw that the car had no problem starting. I'm a little surprised by the lowest voltage that was caught. Got really good current through the battery. 72% of charge for a new battery. That is a little bit weak, but again, we've got a major variable here with this rather extreme cold here. And of course, our alternator is working properly. Okay, we're not going to totally yet rule out a bad battery, but it is still on the back burner. All right, what we want to do now is try to catch either a failure with this battery, or once again, a increase in current indicating that there is something that turns on that puts a parasitic draw on the battery. So let's head back to the car. All right, now to get maximum sensitivity, we will use this 30 amp probe, which will give us a lot better resolution on low amperage than a 600 amp will, because I'm really expecting, like maybe between a quarter and half an amp at most. All right, let's set that one up. Head over to PicoScope software. All right, we are once again going to go to PicoScope 6. As you guys probably are familiar, there is PicoScope 7 out there. Unfortunately, it's not compatible with this computer. Otherwise, I would use it, and I would prefer to use it. Let's go on a 20 volt scale on channel A. That'll be battery voltage. We've got our battery voltage there. We want to really increase this time frame up. Okay, and actually 10 seconds per division should be fine. That should fill up about half our buffer per hour approximately, I believe. And then even if we just check every hour, we should be good to go. Channel B, we're going to put 30 amp probe. Okay, why is that reading so high right now? 526 milliamps. Let's make sure that our jaws are closed all the way. They are closed all the way. Something is on in this car right now. Okay, let's see. We're getting somewhere now. We are getting somewhere now. Okay, right now we seem to be having the parasitic draw. So this fuse box has a couple circuit breakers on it or something that's over the other fuses, so I can't reach the fuses without disconnecting this. Are you serious? We actually have our parasitic draw right now, for sure. We've got half an amp going. Let me make sure I didn't leave like lights on or anything. Nope. All right, sorry for the camera work here. So we've got over half an amp right there. I want to try not to open the door. We're going to go up here. Okay, if we remember, we've got that light switch up here that didn't work earlier. Gonna turn that on. Well, now the light works. Oh, well, that's interesting because it didn't work yesterday. We can see we greatly increase our amperage there. Okay, this didn't work yesterday, so this is going to be kind of a prime concern here. Let's go look at the other switch. To get that, I'm going to have to open the door, which is going to turn on the dome light and everything. All right, and that turns on the dome light and everything. So let's check over here. That light does not work. Oh wait, it does sometimes. Oh wait, now it does work. Okay, well this may be our issue here. All right, well, that is a prime suspect. Okay, our dome light turned off and our amperage is back to about half an amp or so. So we have the current issue right now. Well, we've confirmed there is definitely a issue with this car with a current draw. No doubt about it. Okay, so turning that light on. You see, I kind of like this circuit here. I want to pull the fuse for that courtesy lamp circuit is what I want to do. Because it's acting a little bit wonky. Now, where is that circuit at? One of the other things I want to do, I want to turn this off. And by turning that off, it won't come on when I open the car door. Get a little bit of an increase with opening the car door, of course. Okay, we've got an additional 100 milliamps that just now turned off from having opened the car door. And now we're back at our very, very high amperage draw. And we need to find out which circuit is doing that. Kind of in a little bit of a rush here because I don't want to lose time. But I need to look up where the courtesy lamp fuse is because that's the one that I'm suspecting. So let's look in the fuse block here. And I'm just afraid at any minute that draw could go away. Let's see, we've got headlamps, it's not going to be in the engine compartment. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be in the engine compartment. So what I'm going to do is there's a couple ways we could do this. I can either check voltage drop across the fuses, which is kind of my preferred way, or I can just yank out the fuse. And I actually, if we can target the fuse I'm interested in, we're just going to yank it out. All right, well, I did find one thing at least. Not our problem, but it helps. We've got our little dual 15 amp fuse cartridge thing here. And if I plug that in and unplug it, we look at our screen, we can see we drop about 100 milliamps, which is clear that this controls that door opening, and we get that slight increase in amperage. So actually I'm going to leave that out because that actually helps with not having the variable of the door opening and closing. We see that brings us down. Let's take a look. That brings us down to our 1/2 amp parasitic draw that we are pursuing, and now leaving the door open is no longer a variable, so that's pretty good. I have removed every fuse from that interior fuse block on the inside of the door panel. I'm not sure if there's other interior fuse blocks in there, but I'm ready to look outside of the car because it's just a lot easier right now. And I think what I'm going to do is, now that this has been on for a while, I'm thinking the thermal camera should come in handy now. So I'm going to set up my thermal camera, and then let's look at the main fuse block out here on the engine bay. All right, using the thermal P2 camera, which I did do a review on some time ago. Okay, let's see if we can line this up. And if we look, we see it looks like there's a big heat signature on this plastic component right here. And sometimes you get a little bit of reflective activity, and that isn't really representative. It looks like we got a wire that may be a little bit hot there, but it does appear though that this 40 amp fuse, this guy right here, may be putting off a legitimate heat signature right there. If we look as opposed to any of these relays here, again, that plastic there is just a little bit reflective. But it does appear that 40 amp fuse right there, this guy is showing a bit of a heat signature. So that is good, because if that's an issue, we can pull a wire diagram and we can see what's running on that. It does look like this wire here, that wire possibly may have something going to it. I think that may be a battery monitor. I'm not totally sure. But I kind of like that 40 amp fuse. What I want to do now is see if we can remove this cover off of here and look at the fuses underneath it. All right, what I'm afraid of is that if we do this, this may be connecting a circuit breaker or something. Yeah, it is. Yep, it is. Let's take a look here. It just went off the screen, but I can capture it on the buffer. And we can see right here where I removed it, we're back down to normal amperage draw. So this is exactly what I didn't want to do. Now we lost our parasitic draw. So what I want to do is, before I lose any time, we've got fuses underneath here. I want to get my thermal camera and see if any of them are still warm. Okay, really sorry, but time is of the essence here with as cold as it is. Just need to see. None of the fuses seem to be showing any heat. The only thing that I really like is that 40 amp that we found. So we may go ahead and start with that. Let's see what comes through here. Hopefully we reestablish that parasitic draw. All right, let me turn the scope back on. All right, that sucks. We lost our opportunity. We're right back down to our normal baseline again. That absolutely sucks. Let me see if we can get it to happen again if I start the car. And no, we missed our opportunity because it's back down to normal. Just noticed something here, by the way. So you remember what I said in the first video about how I always roll down the window just in case I lock the keys in the car. Somehow, maybe as a result of removing the module and plugging it in, The doors are locked and the keys are in the car. So this would have been a problem, obviously, but because I got the windows rolled down, I can just easily grab the key. So I think what we're going to do is go on the assumption that that 40 ampere may have had our current draw, and let's get a wire diagram, see if we can look what's on it. I did want to point out, by the way, notice that all that time that we were messing with about a ½ amp of draw, had our red line up where this dotted line is. During that whole time, you see that we still barely moved our battery. This is not a bad battery. The battery is absolutely healthy. So not worried about that, but something definitely turned on and drained that battery, and we need to catch that again. And I'll have to figure out how to bypass that when you remove this cover to get to all these fuses and breakers underneath it. You power down the whole vehicle. So that really is a very, very terrible design for troubleshooting. Yeah, we may have to make some jumpers or something in order to keep that circuit alive. And that's a little bit dangerous to do, obviously, if something crosses up there, right? This really sucks. Okay, yeah, this actually really does suck, because that 40 ampere that I thought was lit up is for the blower motor, and the blower motor definitely wasn't on, so that was a false alarm. So what do we got here? The issue is associated with whenever I removed this cover here. So we've got alternator there. We may need to reproduce this issue and then disconnect the alternator possibly in case the alternator is an issue. Let's see what else we've got on here. MDPS 80 amp. I'm not quite sure what that is, but that's not going to be carrying a ½ amp of current. We've got washer, something with air conditioning, fog light, another air conditioning, hazard light, fuel pump. I would have heard if that's on. We've got several ECU fuses. Injector, sensor 2, not sure what that is. That may be heated oxygen sensor. Got headlamps, another sensor. I'm going to say, well, you know what? Maybe oxygen sensors are turning on or something and heating up. Oxygen sensor would be about an amp though, so I don't think it's going to be that. We may need to see if we can get this to happening, and there's a lot of ECU type stuff here that I'm not able to access with that cover in place. Then we got some spare fuses. Wow, the design of this fuse box is absolutely the worst. So I'm not even sure what to do here. And it's also possible we've got some fuses up here on top of this plastic cover that maybe, had I removed those first, that could have helped narrow us down a little more. Wow, these 40 amp ones aren't even shown. All right, and actually if we look up here in this corner, this is the outline for our plastic component here with its fuses. So let's see, we've got an ABS 1 and 2. I'm not worried about those. We've got number 13 and 15. 13, where's number 13? It goes from 12 to 14. So that doesn't help at all. Oh, 13, that's an ABS thing, and then 15 is backup. So it's definitely not the components in here. And it's also possible this module itself, which I believe is battery monitor here, I'm pretty sure, could also have an issue. What I need to do is have this thing out of the way. So I'm going to try to see if I can bypass this thing by removing these 40 amp and 10 amp fuses and then plugging them in directly to the fuse box. Okay, I was able to extract the fuses out of this guy, transplant them back into the block, and hopefully this will work. And now, if we can reproduce that issue again, we'll have access to all the fuses here. I guess I also should look and make sure there isn't another fuse block inside the car as well. But let me go ahead and just make sure that this works. The door's locked. All right, so actually the ABS light did come on in the car. So apparently this module is necessary. There's probably some type of computer thing in here that is necessary, but we're going to try to live without it for a minute here because we need to have access to these fuses underneath this unit here. So let's hook up our amp clamp. Let's see if we manage to get our issue to happen again. All right, we are running out of time for this video here, so we may have to continue this on, but while I'm trying to reproduce this issue, I decided to go ahead and look up our biggest lead so far, which is that heat signature on that 40 amp fuse. And unfortunately, that was somehow a false alarm because you can clearly see on the wire diagram that that is strictly feed for the load side on that blower motor. There is nothing else on that circuit at all. So either the blower motor is on causing that, which would be way more than half an amp and we would hear it, or it was a false alarm. I'm not sure why it gave a heat signature though. Could be, probably not, but that it's just really close to the main fuse for the vehicle. But with only half an amp going on there, that's an awful big heat transfer over, especially in a freezing garage. So let's do one other thing too. The other thing is now that I've got this module, which part of this I'm sure is a battery monitor, I believe it might be a good idea since we did see there was a heat signature on this, which I believe is just reflective from the plastic. Sometimes thermal imagers can give false alarms just because of the materials, and I'm pretty sure that that's the case here because all kinds of things on the engine lit up that were plastic like this. Let me get that heat camera again and just make sure that we reproduce that that wasn't a legitimate heat signature off that device. Okay, as we can see, that device is freezing cold, but depending on the angle, we do get some background on that. Let's see if we get, oh look, we also can catch it on those fuses too. Right here and here. Okay, so that was, again, there was an angle factor. I can reproduce it right there. Okay, so we went barking up the wrong tree there. And it could also be the thermal camera just isn't sensitive enough that it's detecting this half an amp through a fuse as well. That may be where that micro lens comes in. This thing does have a micro lens, which greatly increases focus. And maybe we'll play with that later. Let me just try that real quick, actually. Okay, so adding this macro lens on here should make it a lot more specific. And of course, I don't see anything lighting up right now because we don't have the problem. But once we do, I may try that again. Let's try that inside the vehicle too. If we look on the fuses here, I don't see any evidence, but of course right now we don't have the issue. All right, and actually now I'm not even sure if the thermal camera may even have the sensitivity to detect at the fuse level. I'm actually going to try that real quick because we might as well. Let me just check and see how our progress is on our reproduction of this parasitic draw. And we can see we are still at a very, very low baseline compared to our parasitic draw level with the dotted line right there, so we are not having the issue. I think just for fun, what I'm going to do, wasn't there a headlamp fuse here? Okay, number 16 and 17 are low beam headlamps. 16 and 17 are right here. That'd be these two guys right there. I'm going to go ahead and try turning on the headlamps and see if we can get that fuse to light up. Yeah, maybe this thermal camera just can't detect it anyway. Oh, no, it definitely does. Unmistakable. Those two fuses right there, and if we scan down below it, there are two other fuses, that 10 and 20, and then the two 10s, and we can absolutely, without question, see the two 10s lighting up. There is nothing with the fuses below it. This absolutely works, without question, on the fuses. Okay, well, that is really helpful to know. I'm going to try this without the macro lens, just curious. Oh, well, hell, look at that. Right there, under my finger. Those two fuses are absolutely on fire. How about that? So it looks like we also got the relay too. This right here by my thumb, that's the relay as well, and we see that that is lit up. Yeah, this thermal camera absolutely works. Look at our circuit breaker right there too, absolutely lit up. We've got another relay there too. So this absolutely is a valid way of doing it, for sure. We just need the problem to happen. All right, are we going to get lucky here? We are. Well, that's interesting that we do have exactly at our line. Yeah, we're dropping now, but could that be one of the computer modules? Because in order to turn the headlights on, I did have to turn the ignition switch on. And that is interesting that it happens to be right about at our dot line. Right now we're still really high, probably about maybe 400. We'll see if that turns off in a second here. Yes, of course it does. Okay, so we no longer have our issue, but I'm starting to think that that may be, this may be that an ECU module may be turning on, and it may not be a light bulb or whatever after all. But anyway, how cool was that? That thermal camera absolutely 100% worked. That was amazing. If we can just get the issue to happen again now, the thermal camera should easily pick it up. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and end this video. We'll do a final part after I get this situation to happen again, and then we will go ahead and show the identification and hopefully the fix. All right, very interesting, very intriguing. Hey, this is a lot more fun, I think. I'm excited to get this to reproduce, and we'll come back.